So I'm going to be starting off this video on a negative note because I snapped the diff again in the white M3. This is an ongoing issue with this car, and I'm going to be buying a built diff for this thing after I swap in this one so that I can drive the car around a little bit, and the diff is going to be built so I can then just switch them and I'll be good to go for 1,000 rated horsepower or torque, I don't know, one of those, and should be good to go. Here's everything that you're going to need: the jack stands, well, obviously the rest of the tools. So I'm going to go ahead and get started jacking up the car, and I'll show you guys what has to be done. Alright, so since I already got the car jacked up, I'm just going to go ahead and dive into it. What you're going to want to start off with is the sway bar, and you're going to want to use two 13mm for both of these sides. It's going to be over here and over there. Alright, so after I'm bolting the sway bar bolts, it should just be a free moving sway bar, and the only thing that's going to be holding it back are these axles right here from going all the way up, and you're going to have to use an E12 socket. And if there's ever anything that you cheaped out on this BMW, please make sure that this is the one thing that you don't cheap out on. Go the extra mile, buy a kit, but get this E12 socket. Make sure that you have the socket, because you will have a miserable time after these little teeth sheared off. Just imagine how to drill out this bolt right here from, well, this. Okay, so I have all the bolts out, and just kind of go ahead and wiggle it, and it should just pop off like that. I won't be showing the second side because it's exactly the same thing, so really no reason for me to show it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that right now, and we'll move on to the next step. So what you're gonna want to do from this point on is pick up the sway bar and just kind of get it to stay up there somewhere, because you're going to need to get to these bolts right here on the diff, the rear mount bolts right there. And I actually have the ECS Motorsport diff bolts, so I'm going to need to use a hex, I think, or it's an Allen, I don't know, it's one of those, but that's what I want to get onto right now. So generally what people do is they take that sway bar and they kind of pick it up, and they take it with these axles and they zip tie it up somewhere, I think to this part right here. Maybe to this, maybe somewhere higher, I'm not sure, but it's never bugged me. This is kind of how I take mine off. It just kind of rests on it. I don't know, never had an issue with it. Alright, so now that I got both these ears unbolted, I can move on to the drive shaft back here, and these are all going to be size 16s, and nothing hard about these, just you're going to have to make sure that your car is either in gear or its e-brake is standing up, so that's the only thing that you're going to have to make sure that you have. After that, it should just be a free moving drive shaft. And now the only thing that you're gonna have left is this front diff bolt right here. And I actually modified mine a little bit. As you can see, I have a nut on the front right here, and I kind of sheared it right there so it could fit in between these grooves. And I actually upgraded this bolt to an M14 size, so it's a little thicker from the E46 M3, because the E36 uses an M12 bolt and it just broke too often on me, so I put this M14 and it's been doing wonders ever since. Alright, cool. So now the only thing that's holding this diff in is this bolt right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and take this nut off and back out the bolt, and the diff should just be free moving and I can just take it out. Alright, so I went ahead and I removed the jack right after I took out the bolt right here from the front, so that's empty. And a few things you're gonna have to take into account is that the drive shaft studs are still in the differential, and that's gonna play a role. So just be careful with that, because you're gonna have to kind of wiggle it back. Make sure the axles aren't hooking the differential itself, the ears on it, on both sides. So this one kind of is, so this one kind of is, so I gotta just move it back like that, and should be fine. Same thing with this one. Just kind of, this one's gonna be more free than anything. And the last part is you're gonna need this little space right here. So make sure to move this sway bar up, and as soon as you move it up, you can move the diff back a little bit, and as you can see, it just kind of stays up there, so that's not to worry about. How I like to do it is I just kind of lay it on my stomach. It's not too heavy, I think it's like 50, maybe maximum 75 pounds, so that's nothing for me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that, and I guess just enjoy my struggle. What I'm actually generally interested in seeing what actually happened to this diff. Yeah, that'll definitely do it. And it doesn't want to spin. Oh, that's right, because the bottom is shot, that's why. No, there's no damage to the center cartridge where the clutches are, and there's no damage right here either to where I was doing that stuff right there. So let me see if there's anything that happened in this thing right here. Maybe 1 or 2 of them. 3 of them are left standing, that's it. The rest is just a free spinning diff. Wow, that's crazy. That was a really hard launch. What I ended up doing is just taking off this plate right here, or this cover, and I'm just gonna swap them, and therefore I'm gonna have the nice bushings on them already, so I don't have to delete these and re-put new ones. Alright, so I already swapped over the speed sensor from this one right here to this side right there with the bushings, and you can see I did a very thorough job of cleaning it out because I didn't want any metal shavings or anything to be in there. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and put some sealant over there, or whatever their stuff is called, on that diff over there. Even though this is clean, you still need some sort of gasket, and in the future I will be switching this out, so it's not a long-term plan. So alright, so now I got the whole gasket maker spread on all over the diff, so I'm gonna put the cover on and bolt it up, and we're gonna throw it right in the car. Alright, so one last thing that I forgot to mention is this flange is a little bit different than the one that's on the new diff. This one has 6 bolts, yes, but it's a little thinner, and it has offset styled 6 pattern bolts, and this one's all equal length. So you can see it's all equal lengths in between the bolt holes, and over here it's like there should be an extra hole right there, but there isn't. So I'm gonna swap the flanges over as well, because those are interchangeable, and to change those all you need is this bolt right there, and you can use a size 30 and then just pick it up, swap it over, and you're good. Also, another tip that's gonna really help you out in the future is just to lay all the bolts down from step 1 all the way down to whenever you finish the project. So sway bar, axles, diff, heat shield, drive shaft, and the very last diff bolt. So basically that's how I do it. It's a little simpler, and it makes it for an easier process. So it's actually been a few days here, and the differential is treating me perfectly fine, and the car is running like it should, and I don't know, just haven't had any issues so far. I'm actually kind of chilling out on driving the car like really hard like I used to, and all the launches and stuff that I used to do, I kind of took that down to a minimum for now until I can get the built diff. And I don't know, I'm just tired of spending on money on this thing for no reason at all, so I'm just kind of playing it smart now, and like rather than going hard into boost, I kind of like lean into it and then I start going. But no more hard launches for now until at least I get the new differential in. So now I'm going to be replacing the oil pan on this M3 because the way that the previous owner did the oil drain wasn't correct. Like the oil drain was sitting a bit too low, and the way that he just set it up, like it's supposed to sit like at an upwards degree angle because the oil is just supposed to flow down from the turbo because there's no real pressure there. But the way he did it, just kind of like it kind of J-hooked, and that's really bad, and the turbo started kind of like blowing a lot of oil through, and it started smoking a lot through the exhaust, and that's not really good because you can blow the turbo seals, and then you might need to replace the center cartridge or just buy a whole new turbo altogether at that point. So I'm going to be taking care of that issue, and it should delete a lot of oil from my air system because it really slows down the turbo and I can really feel it. So that's the next video that's going to be coming out for you guys. So I guess just stay tuned for the next video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.